Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today's video is a tabletop review and comparison of the Taurus G2C 9mm and the new TH9C. We are going to start with a general unboxing and side-by-side comparison of the two, so if you're looking at getting into either one of these options, you can have a better idea of which one will suit your needs the best. Anyway, if that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. Okay, so jumping into this, the TH9C is a relatively new release from Taurus, which did hit the market just a couple months ago. The fundamental difference is it is a double single action with a hammer. Now, it does come with a decocker and a manual safety, just like the Taurus G2C. Now, the G2C also hit the market a few months ago as a replacement or an update to the PT111 G2. Some of the general changes from the PT111 G2 is they did go with a more matte finish. They did remove the internal frame lock safety. They added a solid piece, not a hollow trigger safety here, as well as a couple other minor changes, some changes in the ergonomics of the grip and that sort of thing. Now, the price point of the G2C does come in at about $199. You might find it a little bit higher in about the $215 to $220 range, but generally it's hovering around $200 where you find it. Now, the TH9C is going to be generally about $100 more expensive, hovering around the $299 mark. So for purposes of this review, you can kind of take a look and see, do you get enough added benefit to make up for that extra $100 price tag? All right, starting off with the unboxing of the TH9C. It comes in a nice hard case. Now inside it is foam lined. Go ahead and bring out the handgun here. So you do get two magazines. The shorter magazine does hold 13 rounds. It is double stacked. The larger magazine does hold 17, but makes the pistol grip quite a bit longer. Anyway, you also have a speed loader, gun safety lock, and your warranty and instruction information is under here. All right, so the Taurus G2C does come in a cardboard box. Inside you do have your paperwork, warranty, and instruction manual information. And the firearm is in a little plastic bag. Bringing this out, it is clear. You do have one magazine inserted and an additional magazine included in the box. Both magazines are double stacked and do hold 12 rounds. And then you have your gun safety lock, and that's basically it. All right, getting into the general specification comparison, the Taurus TH9C does have an overall length of 6.85 inches, whereas the G2C has an overall length of 6.3 inches. The barrel length of the G2C is 3.2 inches, whereas the barrel length on the TH9C is 3.54 inches. The height of the Taurus G2C is 5.10 inches, and the height on the TH9C is 5.16 inches. And then the width of the TH9C here is 1.3 inches. The width of the G2C here is 1.2 inches. Okay, now taking a look at the weight with the Taurus G2C, it does have an unloaded magazine inserted, and the weight is 1 pound 5.4 ounces. All right, I'm bringing in the Taurus TH9C. The weight is 1 pound 8.8 ounces, so we are at about 4 ounces heavier on the TH9C. Now, bringing in the slide of the Taurus G2C, starting up here with the front, of course you do have the roll markings there, and you do have these sort of lightning grooves up at the front. They don't really serve much of a purpose other than, I guess, you can get a little bit of a grip there for press checking, which does help you a little bit more than what just a solid front end of the slide would be. You do have these serrations in the back, and here is your external extractor. Now, the top does have a loaded chamber indicator here, so when there is a round in the chamber, that will be popped up. You can feel both with sort of a tactile and a visual indicator when there is a round in the chamber. Now, the rear sights are adjustable. The front sights are fixed, and they are in a 3-dot configuration, and the sights are polymer in construction. Of course, being a striker-fired gun, you do not have any type of hammer or anything back here on the rear. And the other side of the firearm is roughly the same with your serrations here in the back, Taurus roll markings on this side. Now, like I mentioned, they did go to more of a flat black finish as opposed to the more glossy finish on the original PT111 G2. The slide on the TH9C is very similar, but there are a few differences. The serrations are a little bit less aggressive here on the back. Now, up at the top, you will notice there is no type of a loaded chamber indicator like you get on the G2C. The sights are metal in construction in a 3-dot configuration, and both are windage adjustable and dovetailed into the top of the slide. Now, the other side of the slide is the same. You just have your slide serrations here in the back, but nothing up at the front other than the Taurus logo roll marking. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger pull weight starting with the G2C. And it comes in at 4 pounds, 15 ounces. Now the TH9C is a double single action pistol, so we'll go ahead and get a weight on both starting with double action. And that rated in at 11 pounds, 14 ounces. Let's go ahead and take a look at the single action trigger pull. 5 pounds, 13 ounces. So actually the weight on both single action and double action on the TH9C does come in higher than the striker fired single action trigger weight on the G2C. Now going ahead and taking a look at the triggers themselves, the trigger on the G2C is polymer in construction, and they did add this more robust trigger safety. Now one issue that I've noticed on a lot of these that I've handled is you sort of get to this point here and it's almost like the back of the trigger safety is skipping on the frame. And you sort of have to start meeting resistance to allow the finger to depress the safety in enough to get it over that hump, almost like there's too much spring tension in here. Kind of creates a weird skipping effect. Again, that's not unique to this one. I've handled probably 5 of these and all of them do it. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the travel. So you start immediately applying pressure and pulling. You get towards the back of the trigger guard before it goes into a break, right there. Reset. Right there. So actually pretty quick reset into a break. Now, if you don't get a discharge of the round, you let off, there's sort of a false reset there, but it will take itself about halfway back to its resting position there into kind of its reset if it doesn't discharge, and then you can go again into another pull for a follow-up shot if you had a light primer strike or anything like that. So you can do follow-up shots with the G2C. Now bringing in the TH9C, the trigger itself is a lot more substantial. It is also polymer in construction, but a lot wider and flatter, more indicative of sort of like a target trigger that you might get on like a Smith revolver or something. So a lot of surface area up here, and it does feel very comfortable. Plenty of room to rest the pad of your finger. Anyway, on double action first, right here, you definitely meet a lot of resistance at about 11 pounds like we found. The break is right there towards the end of the travel of the trigger. Go ahead and show, obviously, the reset. After it cycles, it will stage you into single action. Reset. Right there, so very quick, very similar to the G2C. Going into single action, again, pretty quick right there at about 5 pounds. Now, if we are starting on single action, of course, trigger is already going to be slightly back as any other double single action pistol. Travel take up is about that far, a good amount of take up until you hit that wall, and then that nice clean break at about, like we said, 5 pounds. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into disassembly, starting here with the Taurus G2C. So first we will remove our magazine and check that we are clear. You want to go ahead and dry fire the pistol. Then, just like a Glock, if you're familiar with one, you do have the takedown tabs here. Go ahead and bring the slide back just slightly. Pull down on both of those tabs and release the slide forward off the frame. It's a little bit stiff. From there, you can go ahead and remove your guide rod and spring. It is a captive recoil spring assembly. From there, you can go ahead and remove your barrel, and that is field stripped. All right, now moving into the disassembly of the TH9C. Again, we will go ahead and remove the magazine to check that we are clear, and go ahead and drop that hammer. Now, this is going to come apart very much the same way. Go ahead and bring a little bit of tension off the slide, pull down on both of those takedown levers, and the slide comes right off the frame. And it was a lot easier to remove than on the G2C, not nearly as stiff. Anyway, go ahead and remove the guide rod and spring, which is set up just like on the G2C, and then the barrel comes right out as well. And just like that, we are field stripped. All right, so one question I know that everybody's going to ask is, will the magazines from the Taurus G2C fit in the TH9C? Now, the answer to that is no. The magazine body on the G2C does have a cutout for the magazine latch on both sides of the magazine body. Now, the G2C does have it's set up for a right-handed shooter, but the magazine release is reversible. So, of course, it'll fit into either one of those. Now, the magazine latch cutout on the TH9C magazine is here at the front because the magazine release on the TH9C is ambidextrous. So you do have a release button on both sides at all times, not reversible from one to the other. So to make that work, you have to have a centrally located magazine release cutout. They are essentially the same size, but of course, because of that cutout, they are not interchangeable. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the frames, starting here with the G2C. The frame here is polymer in construction. Now, the grip itself does not have any type of finger grooves or anything, but you do have these nice sort of patches of a tacky, sort of sandpapery, kind of a light grit sandpapery type feel. So it does have a very nice positive ability to kind of lock in your hand and have nice grip texture there, so you're not going to slip or anything, but it's not overly aggressive stippling or anything like that. And like I've said in other videos, I personally don't like overly aggressive texturing, and this feels pretty comfortable to me. Now, your pinky will fall off the bottom there, but with its magazine inserted, you do have a little bit of a pinky extension there, which fits to my, small to medium sized hands just fine. Now, the magazine release is polymer in construction. It is pretty small, but it is reversible also, so if you are a left or right-handed shooter, you can switch that over to either side for you. Your slide release is here, and it does have an external thumb safety, which does switch up to engage, so you have that there for you as well. Your internal components, such as your slide rails, are steel in construction. The ejector, trigger bar, and all of that, all of those components are reinforced and metal, so that is there for you as well. Keep in mind your two safeties are your trigger safety here and your manual thumb safety here, and there is no longer a frame safety like there was on the PT111 G2. Now, the TH9C is going to be very similar, with a very similar type of texturing here on the grip. Now, you do have two finger grooves here, which do fit me very well. Again, the frame is short and your pinky will fall off the bottom unless you use that magazine. That does have that extension on there, and it gives again me plenty of real estate there with medium to small size hands. Now, the magazine release here is actuated by both sides. Whether you are a left or right-handed shooter, you do not have to replace that. It's always there for you, similar to like a Springfield XDS. As mentioned, this is a double single action handgun, and there is a decocker and a safety on this side. So of course, throw this lever to decock the hammer, or if you push it in the up position, it is manually on safe. Here is your slide stop here and your takedown assembly levers here. The internal components, such as your guide rails for the slide, are steel in construction, your feed ramp, your ejector, so all of those parts are reinforced where they need to be. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this up with some takeaways. And the big question is the TH9C worth the extra $100 price tag that it's going to pretty much demand? A big part of that answer is going to depend on the desires of the user. So I will say that there are a lot of benefits that you are getting here, such as a magazine release that can be used from either hand. Now, keep in mind, even if you are not a left-handed shooter, being able to transition between hands is definitely something that you want to be able to do. And of course, especially in a defensive situation, you don't know if your dominant hand will become incapacitated for any reason, so why not have that ability there for you? Also, the fact that it is double or single action is a good plus to a lot of people. Being able to carry with the round in the chamber and the hammer back with the safety on, such as if you're used to 1911s, or you can carry with the round in the chamber with the hammer down and the safety on. So you have a lot more options available to you in the condition in which you want to carry, which opposed to the G2C being a striker-fired handgun, the trigger pull will always be the same, which in and of itself has a lot of benefits, a lot simpler to use, especially for somebody who's more of an entry-level or novice in the world of concealed carry. The sights on the TH9C are an improvement. They are dovetailed both on the front and the back and fully adjustable for windage, and they are metal in construction, so a big upgrade plus there. The magazines on the TH9C, of course, you get the standard 13 here as opposed to 12 here. Also, it does come with a 17 rounder, which you can use for home defense or range use or anything like that. I also like the feel and the travel of the trigger more on the TH9C. However, we found in the trigger pull weight that the weight of the G2C's trigger is even lighter than the single action pull on the TH9C. So you do have a little bit less weight required there. Now, I don't like necessarily this more robust or heavier trigger safety. You will feel if you pick one up in a store, you get a little bit of a skip there when you finally get enough pressure built up on that safety to allow the back end of that trigger safety to go inside the frame and allow you to pull through on the trigger, which is something I really don't like about the trigger here. So I would still give it a big plus to the trigger over here on the TH9C. Now, the other issue is size and weight. Obviously, the TH9C is a heavier and larger firearm. And ounces can be measured in pounds, and inches can be measured in feet when it comes to carrying a firearm all day. And of course, you want to make sure you end up with something that's light enough and easy enough for you to carry, or you're not going to carry it at all. And the size and weight difference of these two may be enough to where somebody would feel holistically more comfortable with going with the G2C. So I definitely recommend kind of getting them both in your hand and seeing if that extra size and weight is going to be a deterrent for you, because again, you don't want to get into the one you're not going to carry. If you are on a really tight budget and $200 is really all you can afford, and you don't want to squeeze up, you know, the $300 to get up into the TH9C, that's totally fine. You are still getting a very good handgun for the money. Reviews on the PT111 G2 and the G2C have been unanimously incredibly positive. So you're not really compromising and giving up on quality, in my opinion. You're just getting into something that functions, feels, and carries a little bit differently than the TH9C. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell notification button so you can see when I'm posting new content. If you have any questions, as always, leave those down in the comment section. I will try my best to answer as many of those as I can. Again, I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. I will see you next time.